like the idea of what you're doing here. I'll be looking forward to the next one and coming as a guest to see somebody else talk. I guess I'll just kind of tell you how I got started with all this and why I do what I do. I always loved art and drumming as a kid, and as I grew up, I was always working some kind of job to make money, and then doing my art and my music on the side. And there was a point in my life where I said, I can't keep doing this. I got to do what I love to do as the thing that I make a living doing. And then that proved to be impossible for quite a long time. And eventually I started getting a job working with autistic children. And about 2 years into doing that, one of the executive officers of the place I worked at came to one of my art shows and said, "Whoa, I didn't know you did this. How come you're not doing that and bringing that to your job?" And I said, "I've tried to, and no one ever wanted to listen to me, until now." And the next thing I know, I was in their office, and we whipped up a plan, and I brought a creative arts concept with what I do, with a kind of slightly pre-existing creative arts program that was just getting off the ground. I became like one of the one of the original members of this team when they were putting it together. It was me on the painting, this other person doing ceramics, a person doing the theater arts and singing and things like that. And I became part of a group of people that did a creative arts program at my agency. And then finally I was doing my art and acts of compassion and working with people with disabilities all as one thing. And that became my day job, and then I do private sessions, and my whole life is built around creating art and sharing that art and helping people who often can't talk. A lot of my people I work with are nonverbal, and the only way they can express themselves is through art. So it's literally their only vehicle of expression is art. It's not a separate thing. It's they just can't tell you or show you how they're feeling unless it's through their artwork. So that's their vehicle of expression, and I work with them either on one-on-ones or in groups, and that's what I do. I make art and I share art, and art is my life.
Well, thank you.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, you got to top that, dude. Sorry. Sorry for showing off. Like, you asked me to go first.
He's a miracle worker.
Good luck.
Art is basically everything to me because it's an expression from the soul, and it has no color, no gender. It's just something that you can do. It's called creative forces, which I've always used. Background, my family came to Rockland County in 1938. They were famous jazz musicians. They played at Helen Hayes Theater, which is now the Brick House. And then the last house by the park was my family, 4 Lord Pews. My family's house was like 60 years. One was a beautician. And so Rockland has always been a very artful place. I remember Helen Hayes, this tall, telling me, "You have a voice like an angel," you know. But it was always the art. And since I was a little kid, I was always dancing because I'm a professional dancer, clothes designer, and a singer. And what I believe, if you can walk, you can dance. If you can talk, you can sing. And so when you stay in that realm in your life, that feeling, it cancels out all the doubts and mistakes that life can make. Because in the creative form, it's a positive. It not creative is a negative. So if you're creating something, you're going to change something. So try to change it to the better. So you basically use your tools of survival to make life better. So I'll be walking down the street sometime and I'm singing, I'm creating a song, I'm writing a poem, and everybody goes, "It's about the happiest person in the world." Now I could have had a very bad day, but by me being in the process of creation, it changes my feeling and the people around you. And the body painting I like because it's living art. It's like fashion. I got into designing because there's money. I mean, the things that I like, my taste was up, my money was here, and my taste was up there. So I said, maybe I could create this if I really tried. And the first thing was some chair covers. And it's just tangible how you take what you feel. And my new words I've been printing on is, whatever you admire, you can become. And that's by learning the structure. So I took a couple of classes with sewing, I figured how to do this, I figured how to do that. Next thing you know, I did a whole armoire for the living room. And my sister was the budget planner. So she came when she had a fit. I can't believe you broke the budget again by buying this expensive furniture. And, you know, to make it relevant, I took a piece of fabric and I reupholstered the entire living room. It just kept coming to me and I kept stitching. And it became a work of art. And to prove it was great, my sister came in and she didn't say she didn't like it. She said, why did I mess up the budget? Which meant it was qualified. And I was 13. So, you know, what she did was she gave me the sewing machine, and I've been designing and creating ever since. But I don't like to limit ourselves as one.
You made me a suit.
I certainly did.
He made me a slamming suit. Oh yeah, he went with me to pick out the material, and I picked up this great pinstripe material, and he made me this badass suit with a long jacket and
the arts are
talk of the town.
Are fascinating. And this material right here is the most wonderful thing in the world now, because just a phone. Because now you can Google things like I said, my uncles came in 1938. If you would Google Fat Man Frank Humphreys, all the materials in there. I mean, everything I've said, you can prove now through this instrument. And how that's done is because you do things. The more you do, the more it happens. And then you got to share it. It's not like I have it and nobody else does. That's why I perform live. I can't help it. Singing is great because when I'm dancing, the people, I'm getting the energy from you guys. It's not just coming from me. I just see the joy in your face, and I see a person that's all twisted up like this, and all of a sudden they go. So I really can't stand that guy, but my girlfriend's looking at him, but I really gotta. The next thing you know, you have the whole place just moving. And what always gets me is I was up in Tuxedo, it's all elite and it's all got the big old castles and everybody's in this little room. And it was the quietest place I've ever been in my life. I said, either this is a funeral or somebody's getting ready to die here. But what happened was they was posing. And all of a sudden we put the music on, forget the number. They was dancing around like a bunch of romper room kids. It was so funny because they were able to express themselves freely. And that's what artist means, to express your inner self. You know what I mean? And then you hone your skill in, so, because it can't be validated by anybody. Your craft will speak volumes if you keep it in the positive. Because if you don't, then you'll come back at you, why did I do that? But it always works that way. I'm not babbling too much.
No, I think that's good,
Yeah, but that's how I am. That's what I do.
Cool. Yeah, so I'll just say that, I can absolutely ask questions, but my question, look at Carol's like this. Yes, Andy, ask questions. I'm good. I'm totally good, Carol. I swear. I'm good. I'm very comfortable.
I have a question.
Good.
Like when I think about art, I often sort of struggle with this idea of, is it just purely self-expression, or is it something that you're trying to share with people? Because oftentimes what you're feeling and what you're thinking isn't necessarily what you want to be, sharing with the world or telling people, or the message you're giving out. And you hope that there is sort of a overlap in which what you're feeling is what you want to say, but do you ever feel a sort of kind of feeling of you're repressing certain things that you're putting out in your art because it's not like, I don't know how this will be received, or this is not what I want the people to be hearing, especially in terms of negative expression?
Wow.
Well, sometimes, if I'm not,
No, please.
Sometimes it's a calling to do something inside you that you feel that you can do that nobody's doing, or sometimes you see something in somebody else that is cool. So you kind of you got to translate, because it's an urge. The thing is to focus on a positive effect. In other words, don't be afraid of it, but just don't throw it out right away. Look at it first, before if you're creating something. Because I see we say, well, maybe they won't like it. If it's going to fix something, if it's going to bring a person to inspire themselves to do something or not to do something, you know what I mean? Because all of us have strong points and weak points. And as humans, we interact a lot. And some of us can do it really well because we're stronger with ourselves. We can just say whatever we want because we've tried it. I'm 61, child. I've been pushing this devil for a long time. And it works because remember, sharing is a very, very important part. Getting credit is more of getting the example, the thing that happens good afterwards. There's a word I'm trying to use, I can't remember right now. But cause and effect. If you do something new and all of a sudden it grows, that means it's positive. If it doesn't, it's negative. But try to keep it on the, because then you'll get more ideas. Because you sound like a person that has a lot of good ideas, and express them. And then use different ways to express them. But remember, sometimes people aren't where you're at, so you got to be careful what you say, who you say around. And then, just be yourself and don't worry about it. As long as it's a very positive feeling and you feel good about it, and you don't mind saying, I did it, or not,
Yeah.
as long as it gets it done,
But what if let's say you're in a negative place or a upset place,
run.
and you and you want to, and you sort of feel like you want to express that, whether it be whatever art form. Is that something you do, even though it feels like you're actually bringing kind of a more somber form of connection with people?
No, sometimes silence is golden sometimes, because there's good and evil in the world. We don't make it primitive. There's negative things, there's bad things. And by you arguing with a fool, it's only going to destroy you, and he's going to misinterpret what you're trying to do. So sometimes you just don't say anything and wait, and until you have the space for it, or get your message down through an art. Sometimes you can speak volumes with a picture, because some people aren't ready for change. I mean, people have been used to doing things backwards for so long that, and they've been praised for it. I got money, so I can just, and it doesn't work that way. I mean, you can tell by the smile people give you, the helping hand, your health. I mean, all those things, so just keep them in mind, put it in a poem sometimes, you know what I mean? But sometimes you don't have to be screaming. The silent word is more powerful than a very loud word sometimes. Yeah.
Well, then there's the blues.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
another way to
Yes.
express
Yes.
sorrow and
There you go.
sadness,
Thank you.
So
Yes.
that's another vehicle.
Yes, yeah.
That can appear lighthearted on one level, but
Mm.
then if you really kind of pay attention and understand that person's
Yeah.
environment, their background, then that can be pretty heavy. So that's just another. People have done that, and it's been celebrated, and it's taken on a life of its own.
Yeah, and because that's very true. They hate my blues though, because I answer at the end. Like after I tell a dark story, I go over like I'll do like Stormy Monday blues, and the guy just lost everything at the end of the story. But I got myself together, and I'm coming back. They go, Frankie, I was really feeling this. Why did you mess it up? No, because you're right about the blues, because the blues helps you acknowledge the fact that you're human and that you do feel, but it has to be addressed. And so that's why you'll put on like Billie Holiday, because we feel that way, and it's a hard thing but you're human, you're supposed to feel that. That's how you know that you care, is that you go into yourself and feel these things.
I was just going to add that sometimes if you've projected something that you're wrestling with, it's going to resonate with somebody else, and they're going to be so grateful that you
Yeah.
did,
Yes.
and that there you connected right there. Whether they even acknowledge you or speak to you, you've touched them, and I think that's pretty powerful. And so it's almost a gift that you've kind of expressed angst, and then somebody's been able to latch on
Relate
to that.
to it.
Wow, I'm not the only one, kind of wrestling with this or suffering
I
with
just think as an artist, it must be a vulnerable position
Damn
to be
right.
saying, I am struggling with this, or I'm feeling this way. And, it's not like, no matter what, people aren't going to be like, oh, like, awesome. Like, it is, So I think that I know that, whatever, that would be hard for me. And just like saying, like, do I want to be just pleasing the people? Or,
Exactly.
and that dealing with that dichotomy.
I started dealing with that exact issue. A lot of my paintings are portraits, and generally speaking, when I decide to paint a portrait, it's somebody I admire or respect or know personally, or in some cases was hired to do a portrait, for somebody on occasion. But mostly they were someone I admired, either a musician or a political figure, or somebody that like I had great respect for and awe for. I painted Bill Hicks, this famous comedian that I really love, Frank Zappa, Bernie Sanders, like people that like I thought were doing very positive things in the world. But then like you were talking about this negativity and angst and frustrations and things in the world that I think are horribly wrong with Donald Trump with the world.
What?
And I decided that as an artist, I didn't want to just paint people I loved, that I would attempt to paint someone I had great guttural discontent
A
with
little
him.
angry.
Like a real seething, like, distaste for Donald Trump. And I said that I gotta do this, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try to paint someone that I think is despicable and see if I can. Because I felt like how could I? Because why would I even want to go there, you know? But then I said, no, I'm gonna do it. So the two first portraits I went for in this family of thought was Donald Trump, and I did a portrait of John Wayne Gacy, the serial killer who dressed up as a clown. And I brought actually John Wayne Gacy and Trump with me. So, there's the portrait of Trump I did,
Wow.
with a forked tongue and horns and orange, you know. And then and that's just the one I did of John Wayne Gacy. He had this character, Pogo the Killer Clown, that he dressed up as. He actually did children's parties. Yeah, until they caught him. He was a normal member of society, and he was like, you know, I think he was a coach of the Little League team, and he was a productive, happy member of his world, and no one knew him. When they found out, they were completely shocked. And then when he was in prison, he painted portraits of himself as the clown, Pogo the Clown. And it became a very prolifically famous thing because here he was a serial killer, and yet he was an artist, painting portraits of himself as a clown. I mean, crazy. But I found that darkness in him, that here's a man who, you know, lived in his world and donated money to causes and was a coach, and everyone that knew him, when they found out, they were like, that can't be. You know, so the two sides of the same person. You know, Donald Trump and Pogo the Killer Clown, you know. There we go. I mean, Pogo the Killer Clown is running our country now.
I think there's like an inner artist maybe in everybody. Like, you know, it's kind of interesting. Like you say, the artist is if the artist is out here and then we're over here. And it makes me think of the kids that you work with.
Yeah.
That maybe they don't immediately even express themselves in art. You might, I don't know, I'd like to hear if you ever have to pull it out of them, and if you ever pull it out of them, then maybe it could be pulled out of all of us, including a Donald Trump or this serial killer. Like,
interesting.
and it's probably a better
That's
thing that the
interesting.
serial killer is now like, honestly, is creating versus
Right.
destroying like such a horrendous way. And like,
Yeah.
is that something that
That was also
we
part
all
of my
could be-
process, was
Yeah.
to see the humanity in these people. Because although someone like that clearly needs to be kept away from society so they can't hurt people, you also have to see that someone who does this has something wrong with their brain too. These people have neurological, their brains are different than
They're
ours. They're physically different than us. When they do brain scans of them, there's pieces of their brains that are either dead or not working, or they have physical problems that can't be corrected. So you have to keep them away from society, but then you have to realize they're a victim of their own physical circumstance. You know, it's a weird irony that they're so dangerous, but yet at the same time, they have no choice in a sense but to be who they are. So it's kind of ironic, you know?
Well,
But anyway,
When
and
you
I'm
think
just
about all
searching
the
for their
people that
humanity at the same time.
among us, or
Yeah.
within society, that are totally functioning, that have those issues
Right,
that
and you
people
don't even know
aren't,
who they are.
and you don't know who they are
Right.
unless you have been in contact with them. It's interesting because it's not only the people behind bars and prisons that have the problems.
Right.
It could be, unfortunately, one of your neighbors or someone that
Yeah.
you've lived with. And there are many, deviant types of
Uh-huh.
people and personalities.
Yeah.
I found with working with artists that it's sort of like the yin and yang of it. The artists are incredibly sensitive people. Musicians also, I work with musicians, I work with singers, and then I work with people that actually use their hands and create art. And I always felt like, wow, they've really opened them, these really highly sensitized people open themselves up to so much rejection. And it's sort of the yin and the yang of it. And I give them so much credit in sort of, showing their intimate side. And the problem with our society is that we don't show our intimate side with each other enough.
All right, sure.
And we don't personalize things, and we don't say, like, I'm having a bad day. And this is how I feel to a friend or to, a loved one enough. And I think if I felt that having a gallery would allow this kind of conversation to go on amongst everyone, so people can feel closer and more compassionate and caring towards one another. And that's all, you hope to treat others as you would like to be treated, and that's sort of the goal of everybody's life, I would think. So, not to be afraid to be real and tell the truth about how you're feeling, and if you do it within your artwork or within your music, I think that is going to help everyone. It's going to certainly help yourself, and you'll have better enriched relationships with people.
Absolutely.
I think to maybe bring it around to what Human Connection Arts is about, it's about that disrobing of who we are on the outside, and it's literally done where everyone's clothes are off, and our ideas of beauty are a little changed. We're all beautiful for our irregularities, for our age, and for what we may not think is ideal, but we very quickly realize there is no ideal. As far as your point about, I think Carol made the point, we are all the same, artist, non-artist, everyone can be an artist and can do, and if someone has a feeling that's tough as an individual, it's something that everybody shares, and musicians maybe bring it out in the blues, or painters in certain expressions, but it's not just the deviant, the guy who's dressed as a clown and killing people that we maybe have to worry about, but it's the average Joe who's not doing any of that, who maybe under the surface there's a fine line, and
Yeah.
certainly Nazi Germany is an example
Right.
of a very smart group of people who very quickly turned very violent and did some things that you would say was very deviant. And then again, it was Hitler who had the famous deviant art show, or sort of condemned the deviant artists. So it's they are now the most famous artists in modern art.
So on that note, I think that according to where you're at, a lot of things that are going on that we're perpetuating, that the U.S. is perpetuating, from our side, it doesn't look so horrible because, you just go to Starbucks. But if you're living in one of the countries that's getting bombed by U.S. forces, or being impacted by whatever, whether it's sanctions or whatever stuff going on that we seem to be pretty disconnected from. And I think that basically, it's sort of, it's something to really think about, because I think, I agree with you in those terms that basically, if the population is sort of aware of everything that's going on, then the government is sort of held accountable. And I think that it's hard for me to put into perspective everything that's happened earlier, but it seems that we're a particular place in time where there's a real serious lack of accountability. And I think that the reason why there's a lack of accountability is largely because of the mentality of the population. And I think and it goes back to the art. And I'll just say this, because I'm just gonna, I'll just say that there's two aspects to that, which is that on one hand, like when someone makes art, like the way I see it is like, I see art as apolitical. And I consider the Human Connection Arts, this organization, to be apolitical. I have my own political views, and so it's sort of a balance. And then the artist is sort of like, has almost the responsibility to not allow their own personal feelings to sort of impact their relationship with the creative source of things. And so it's sort of almost scary because, we're very often told political stuff, like if you believe this, if you think this, then you're a bad person. Or if you bring up this subject, then you're on the verge of being called you're a bad person or a blankophobe or whatever it is. And I think that, in a sense, like people say very often that the role of the artist is to provoke, and I actually disagree. I actually believe that the role of the artist is be true to their inner spirit, which is probably the most provocative thing they could ever do. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, I've always remembered, if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. And that's where we need to be at now. I don't do politics, I do policy. What's the facts? You know, and we as Americans are going to have to start focusing on that because we have the greatest country in the world. We have all the resources. Every human species of the world lives in our sphere, and we're not really appreciated like we should. The countries that we're fighting, the third world countries, they have nothing. I mean, the deserts, there's no running water. I mean, if you just take a tour sometime behind the mask of Russia's this or that, and I'm not getting political, I'm just sticking to the facts. Just read. It's very primitive people because it's the lack of knowledge. And this is the country that has that American slogan, come bring your home. This is freedom. And it's not just for one color, it's freedom for humankind.
I think you're presenting a very ideal point of view, and
Okay.
I don't know if it's really true.
I've been living it so long, and it works. You just gotta have tenacity and don't look back. When my family had a house over here in the 50s, down south they were getting hung every other day. Now without that faith and that fact of knowledge not being all powerful, I wouldn't be able to talk to you today. Because it's not, you can outlive ignorance. It's only the lack of knowledge that makes us who we are.
But I think maybe your view of other countries, I think in general, Europe looks at the Americans as if we're all stupid.
See, that's a facade, child.
Maybe they're right, or maybe they're not.
Go to Europe. You know,
I'm just saying, it sounds a little overly nationalistic, and that could be separation.
I mean, even here, I mean, we have poor areas in America,
over the country.
and they're not ethnic.
I'm just poor.
People just don't have the lack of education, so we don't shine on that part. What I'm saying is, the thing is, the world is ours, the entire planet. I'm not just going to hold myself to. That's the thing with competition. All my life, I always fought competition. Oh, you got to be better. No, you don't. Everybody's valid. Everything you do is necessary because it's getting the job done. There's joy, there's change, there's visions. Of course, there's always going to be demons. And that's just the lack of knowledge on his part. His mother should have whooped his behind instead of spoiling him. His money was not made by him. His father owned half of New York first. We're dealing with Trump. I don't like to deal with politics, I deal with policy. Because everybody, oh, he's the... No, we're all in the White House. If we don't vote right, we didn't have two good decisions. Well, Hillary I liked and this one. Well, I don't want either one. But you have to make the choice. You know what I mean? So whatever we got to deal with because we've got to follow him because we got to deal with him. We got to back him up or get him out, whatever. That's just life. But you can't stop. You got to focus on how we can stop this war, how we can do this. But you can basically express that by showing love to each other, reminding yourself, go see your grandmother, go see your relatives sometime, and listen to their plight that they've never told you because they didn't want you to be cursed by their dreams. But today the knowledge is so open, the things that they fear is non-existent anymore. You know what I mean?
What do you
Because
mean?
times change. All right, back in the 50s, if you had a kid without a husband, you was taboo. You destroyed your entire family. Today, it's a whole different world. I know people that suicidal or the rules can change. You just gotta remember life changes, so you can help change it to a positive aspect instead of being like Chicken Little. Oh, this guy is falling. And find out why and how we can, share it. So we're not just in the dark about what's going to happen next. You know what I mean? And the separation lines is only a facade. I mean, we read the books and just learn on how powerful and brilliant mankind really is and womankind really, really is. But we don't, I'm looking like I'm here now. I'm glad that you said, Frankie D's great, but spirits. It's bigger than that. I mean, everybody has that innate power. Oof, that's what I got. And because I feel it, I have a passion for it. Because I don't like doubt, I don't like fear. Getting emotional. It's a good thing. Because I believe what I'm saying, and I know it. I've seen it. I've seen kids that had nothing become great entertainers. I've seen people that was piss poor become leaders of huge. My aunt was 4'11". When she died, there was 2,000 people at her funeral. a lady this big, you never heard her name before. But her cause and effect with